Hello, Griffins. Welcome to the Virtual Volunteer Fair Information Session 1. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a few community partners who are here excited to share their volunteer opportunities with you. So please engage with us through the Q&A box at any time of the presentations. And we'll be able to answer your questions after the presentations or through replies. So first we have Elisa from Let's Talk Science. And Elisa, just give me a quick second. I'll project your slide.
Perfect. All right, I can see it, Ray. Thank you. So, hello everyone, my name is Elisa. I am a coordinator for Let's Talk Science at the University of Guelph. On this call with me, I also have another coordinator, Anita, that is here with me. So I'm going to talk to you guys about our organization and how you guys can get involved. So who are we? So Let's Talk Science is a national organization that is dedicated to empowering youth that are in K-12 in STEM through free hands-on activities. And our outreach is within Guelph, but also in surrounding areas and as well as rural areas. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, COVID-19, all of our activities are now online. And since September, we have created and delivered workshops to classrooms and community groups virtually. And volunteers can apply and volunteer through the comfort of their own home. And I'm going to pass it off to Anita on why you should join and the expectations of our volunteers.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Lisa. So as Lisa mentioned, we basically work with youth hands-on. Normally, we would go visit classrooms or host community events, and these events would basically just give students an opportunity to learn science through hands-on activities. So this one reason you should join, and one huge benefit of being a Let's Talk Science volunteer, is you can be a really good role model for someone who wishes to pursue science and really give them that hands-on interaction and get them to ask you about what it means to be a scientist and just kind of showcase the fun side of science, right? It doesn't have to be just taught in a textbook or over a PowerPoint. It really is a great way to engage students and change their perception of science. It's also a great way to develop communication and facilitation skills. So these workshops are a great way to present to students and really in a lay way, and to explain and showcase why concepts are important and how it relates to the real world. So also, as Elisa mentioned, we are a national organization. So by joining as a volunteer, you're not just joining the University of Guelph Let's Talk Science, but you're also joining a large network of other volunteers across Canada. And because we have a national organization, they also give a lot of networking and professional development opportunities. So you'll get emails about webinars on enhancing your skill set as a volunteer, whether it's communication skills, teaching skills. They also do a lot of resume writing workshops, that sort of thing. And you might be able to learn from other STEM professionals in the field. So in terms of expectations on becoming a Let's Talk Science volunteer, so the first thing you would have to do is come to training. Obviously, it's all online because of COVID. So there's a kind of like a course link type style workshop that you'd have to go through, and then you would meet virtually with us just to go over the workshop again and explain what it would be like to volunteer. And we would want you to volunteer for at least 5 activities per year. And this is very variable in terms of timing. So it's a really great thing that you can fit in your schedule pretty easily. And we have activities happening throughout the school year. So if you're interested, I believe the Google form was put into the Q&A session. So if you are interested in becoming a volunteer, feel free to fill out that form, and then we'll get in touch with you about training. There is also our emails listed on the slide here. So if you have any questions about what it's like to be a volunteer, we can definitely ask them. You can definitely ask them now, or you can send us an email and we can definitely chat more about what it'd be like. So I think that's it for us. Elisa, I hope I didn't miss anything.
Nope. That's
Okay.
good to go, but follow us on our social media accounts if you're interested as well.
Yeah. And I guess we can just take questions now, if anybody has any.
Thank you so much, folks. There hasn't been any questions so far, so we'll just wait a couple more minutes. But I do have a couple questions to ask you folks. I know you folks used to organize a lot of really fun events happening around campus. Are you able to share some examples of exciting things that's coming up that the volunteers will be supporting? So maybe folks can get a good idea of like what are the type of opportunities there are.
Yeah, sure. So our main focus so far has been classroom visits, obviously virtually. So those are upon educator requests. So those are just teachers that want us to come visit their classroom. And it's usually an activity or some sort of workshop related to the curriculum. Normally, we have an event called the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, this is definitely the event for you. It's usually every November, the first weekend of November, and we basically change the science complex into Hogwarts. And all the science events that we have are magical themed, or they have some sort of Harry Potter twist. So this event draws about 2,000 people to campus. It's a huge undertaking on our end, but it's probably the most fun. The participants love it. They come from all over Ontario. They dress up in their favorite character. They'll wear their house, like their school house and everything. So that's a really big event that we put on every year. Another thing that we've done for the past couple years is a Women in STEM event that usually happens in February to celebrate International Women, Girls, and Science Day. And that event, again, is just to promote diversity with equity in STEM. But everyone is always invited to attend. We hope to have more kind of high school symposiums in the next couple months. So those are kind of more geared towards the senior high school level and just teaching them how science can relate to a real world topic. And showcase kind of research within a topic. So usually it's a very niche topic like cancer biology or climate change or something like that. And I see a question about volunteers should take on 5 activities per year. What does that mean, time commitment, layout activity? Yeah, so that's a great question. So our classroom visits are typically 1 hour long, just for reference. So because everything's virtual, we've been basically doing kind of like a slideshow to teach, like to engage the students that way. But we also give educators a list of materials that they could ask their students to have prepared for their students, and they would follow along with a demonstration that you're providing virtually. So because of everything going on, we usually go to a classroom with like a kit which has all the materials in it, but we obviously can't do that. So we basically just tell the educators to provide the materials or just do the demonstration, like a video recording of a demonstration, and you basically just engage the students that way. I think that answers the question, hopefully, in terms of time commitment and layout. They're all basically just virtual kind of PowerPoint workshops with a hands-on component.
Right, and I just want to add, Anita, just when you do get trained and when you do become a volunteer, you are subscribing to our email list, so you'll find out about those activities and what opportunities you can have as a volunteer through those emails. So it'll depend on what educators have requested us to visit. So that could be a kindergarten classroom, that could be a grade 4 classroom. So it really is dependent on what our schedule is like. And again, you will receive all of those opportunities through our email list.
And I think I see another question. Sorry, am I running out of time, or is it okay if I answer this question?
Go for it. I was gonna prompt the question, so please answer.
Yeah, so there's a question about do you have to have extensive background knowledge in science in order to volunteer? And the answer is no. Don't be intimidated if you're not in science or your major is not in science. When we do activities like this, there's always like not a script that you can follow, but there's a detailed outline of how to run the workshop. So there's always, presenter notes or something that tells you kind of how to present the slide. And you always can meet with myself, Elisa, or other coordinator who's not on this call today beforehand, and we're happy to go through the workshop with you and ask we can answer any questions that or things that you're uncertain of. And also because it's K to 12, the high school is just like at the most you'd be teaching is like high school level science, and we would definitely prep you beforehand.
Awesome. Thank you folks for sharing. Those sounds like really amazing opportunities and also fun opportunities. So please do check out the volunteer sign up sheet, which is already shared in the announcement, and their social account also are shared in our announcement. All right, thank you so much, folks. There will be another sort of end of the session Q&A time, so stick around if you have more questions for folks, and you can also send those questions in the Q&A box, and Elisa and as well as Anita will be able to answer you by replying to those questions. All right, next we have from Frontier College, Catherine. Catherine, if you just give me one quick sec, let me put your slide up, and you're unmuted already. All right, there you go, you're live.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Ray. So hi, everybody. My name is Catherine, and I'm one of the Frontier College Guelph interns. So we are a Frontier College as a whole. We are also a national organization, and we're a non-for-profit literacy organization. And in Guelph specifically, we engage a lot with the university students. So we have like our own separate club name at the University of Guelph, which is Frontier College Guelph Students for Literacy. So I'm just going to give you a bit of history background on our organization as a whole, and then let you know specifically how you guys can get involved in Guelph. So who are we? Frontier College is Canada's original literacy organization. We are one of the oldest. Alfred Fitzpatrick founded Frontier College in 1899 when he trained and sent young individuals to logging camps, mines, and railways. So most of these young individuals were recent university graduates, if not still completing their university degrees, and many of them wanted to go into teaching and education. So these young teachers, or almost qualified teachers, would go out and labor alongside the workmen during the day and then teach them at night how to read and write in the evenings, because many of these young laborers were uneducated and they had to be providing for their families and had to not attend school throughout. And so yeah, that's where we get the frontier from, because they're on the frontier of Canada. And our mission. So basically, we believe literacy is a right. We believe that everyone has the right to read and to be literate. We work with volunteers and community partners to give people the skills and confidence they need to reach their full potential and contribute to society. Our values. We know that low literacy skills are directly linked to poverty, poor health, and high unemployment. So our network of volunteers provides excellent and effective programming to improve literacy in communities all across Canada. We value mutual respect and collaboration in all our relationships. Our activities, programs, and services are inclusive of any individual for whom our assistance is welcomed and needed. So there are many different communities that Frontier College goes to across Canada. In Guelph, we specifically focus on children and youth. So our programs are offered from anywhere from grade 1 to grade 12. There are adult programs in other areas of Canada, but in Guelph, we are specifically focusing on the children and youth. So our philosophy, everyone has a right to learn. We go where people are rather than asking them to come to us. So kind of the new philosophy of Frontier College is, obviously we've explored and settled all of Canada now. So we say we go to the modern frontiers. So low income neighborhoods, we work with a lot of special needs kids, a lot of new immigrant families. So we're going to the places where resources are maybe not as accessible and not as available, and providing those resources to those communities. We believe every place is a learning place, and we value a tutorial partnership where the learner and tutor respect and learn from each other. We value the contribution learners, volunteers, and our community partners make in the learning experience. So why should you volunteer with us? Volunteering with Frontier College means you will be helping other Canadians build literacy and numeracy skills, which increases their confidence, community engagement, and opportunities for the future. Most people who love to read had a parent, teacher, or caregiver who took the time to read with them. As a volunteer with Frontier College, you can spread your love of reading and learning to others. So right now in Guelph, we have pivoted to offering all our programs virtually. Currently for fall 2021, we have onboarded all our volunteers that we need for this semester. However, we run programs all throughout all semesters. So what I'm here, if you are interested, what I'd like to ask you all to do is to email me at guelph@frontiercollege.ca, letting me know that you're interested in becoming involved in one of our programs. And then I will add you to the mailing list, and our next round of volunteer recruitment may actually happen in the spring and summer, which is really exciting, something that going virtual has actually enabled us to do. Now that we can get our volunteers to volunteer from home, because most of our volunteers are University of Guelph students. In the summer, many people leave and go back home, but now that it's all virtual, we are hoping that we can actually do a spring and summer session this year. So it's not confirmed, but if you send me your email, definitely be looking out for an email from me in the spring, start of the spring semester, summer semester, and 100% we will be continuing virtually in the fall. And depending on how the COVID situation is, perhaps returning to back in person, but we are going to keep some of our virtual programming regardless. So I'm really excited that, we have made this happen in COVID and we can do it all virtually. I'm actually like, wow, it might even be better this way. So please do send me your name if you're interested. And now I want to pass it off to one of our volunteers, Helena. She's actually one of our organizational team leads. So she is a longtime volunteer with us, and she now actually runs and leads one of our programs. So I will pass it off to Helena now, and yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Catherine. So yeah, my name's Helena, and this is my third semester volunteering with Frontier College. So like Catherine said, I'm currently in an organizational team lead role for a BrainFit program, and I'm going to speak a little bit about my own experience and why I chose to volunteer here. So volunteering with Frontier College has been personally really rewarding for me. It's allowed me to work with learners from all different backgrounds and really make a difference in their lives. This work is important to me because literacy and education is a right, and everybody should be able to learn. Not all kids have equal access to individualized learning plans, or sometimes even just the general help with school that they might need in order to succeed. And Frontier College provides learners with tutor help in a variety of settings. For example, my particular program focuses on teaching grade 3 math concepts, and myself and the other team leads for this program create math-based games, which reinforce a different concept each week. At the end of our program, we also incorporate a literacy-based activity, which encourages language development. Volunteering with Frontier College is a really fun experience, first and foremost, for both the volunteers and the learners. I know I personally really look forward every week to our program because we're always greeted by the most enthusiastic faces, and they're always ready to learn something new. Things, of course, have changed since the programs have all moved online with COVID, but I really do think that the transition has been smooth overall. We make use of platforms like Zoom and Kahoot, which ensure that we still get that interactive face-to-face time with all of our learners. For anyone who's wondering how the engagement might have been impacted as a result of our programs being online this year, I can truly say that the learners love coming each week and really do love participating in activities. It's been inspiring for me to see how resilient our learners are and how they have adapted to challenges presented by online learning, because we know it hasn't been easy for everybody. I'm also lucky to work with some great people at Frontier College. Our team of volunteers is made up by some really wonderful people who are super supportive, and they're always helping each other out. I definitely recommend volunteering with Frontier College to anyone who's interested in making a difference through providing extra support for learners of any age. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena, and thank you, Catherine, for sharing all the great information about your opportunities. I can see folks are asking questions, and we do have Angel now moderating the questions. So if you have more questions about Frontier College and their opportunity, please send your question in Q&A and we'll answer by replying. All right, now we will invite Kirsten from Canadian Blood Services. Kirsten, just give me one quick sec. And your mic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ray. Hi, everyone. My name is Kirsten, and I'm the Territory Manager with Canadian Blood Services here in Guelph and the surrounding area. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about a couple different volunteer opportunities with Canadian Blood Services. So the first opportunity actually is as a blood donor. So Canadian Blood Services relies entirely on the generosity of volunteer donors to maintain Canada's blood supply across the country in all of our hospitals. Statistically, about every 60 seconds in Canada, someone receives a blood product. So the need for blood remains constant. I actually just got off of a national call with our organization where we were informed that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for blood within the hospital system remains constant to pre-COVID levels, and we don't forecast that changing anytime in the near future. The reason for that being is that blood donors and blood products are used for a variety of different reasons every single day. And the statistics that you're seeing on the screen here are just a few reasons why someone might need a blood transfusion. So a couple of the, I guess, like higher quantity reasons why someone may need a blood transfusion is someone who is an accident victim in a traumatic car accident, for example, could need upwards of 50 units of blood. One donation is 1 unit, so that would equal 50 donors having to donate blood in order to save that person's life. Another reason why someone may need blood would be if they are undergoing treatment for leukemia. Leukemia patients often need up to 8 transfusions every single week. We usually have regular donation events on campus at the University of Guelph, which had to be canceled due to the pandemic. In both 2020 as well as 2021. So we typically are there monthly and collect over 100 units of blood, equating to about 720 units a year, just in Guelph alone from the university population. Because we aren't able to be on campus right now and see all of the wonderful student faces, we need you guys to come to us. Another reason why the need for blood remains constant is because blood has a shelf life. So like anything else that is living, if you take it out of its host, it only has a limited amount of time in which it is viable before it needs to be reused. So for your red blood cells, that is 42 days. Your platelets are only viable for 7 days, and your plasma can be frozen for up to a year. So a little bit about what we're doing during COVID-19. So obviously we are in lockdown right now, and people are trying to limit their interaction with the outside world as much as possible, and we are being told to stay at home. So we work very closely with Health Canada as well as Public Health to ensure that blood donation is a safe activity for you to leave your house right now. Blood donation is essential, blood donors are essential, and our organization is essential. So a little bit about what we're doing just to ensure peace of mind and quality control at this time. We have active wellness screening at the front of all of our donation centers. So what this means is you're going to have your temperature checked upon entering the facility, and you're also going to have to answer a series of questions related to COVID-19 and pass our wellness screening before you come inside. Everything else is physically distanced once you're inside. All of our chairs and spacing is more than 2 meters apart. We have hospital grade cleaning staff that come in 3 times a day and clean all of our high touch surfaces frequently. We do deep cleans on a regular basis. Our donation chairs are all spaced apart, and all of our pamphlets that you have to read every single time you come in to donate are either single use or they are laminated and are single use only. So a little bit about the eligibility to be a blood donor. So like volunteering anywhere else, there's a little bit of a screening process. So if you are curious about if you are eligible to be a blood donor, the minimum age requirement is 17, and between the ages of 17 and 23, we do have height and weight requirements. If you've never donated before, this is something I highly recommend looking further into. And also I recommend going to our website on blood.ca and going to this page in particular. It's called the ABCs of Eligibility. On here, there is a very comprehensive list of A to Z of all the reasons why someone may or may not be able to donate blood. So if you are on a certain type of medication, for example, you can look it up on this page and see if you are eligible. The same goes for travel, tattoos and piercings, any other type of restrictions that you think might prohibit you from donating blood. I recommend just going to this page and having a look at it. So as I mentioned before, we used to have regular donation events on campus at the University of Guelph. And in lieu of those this semester, we are working closely with our on-campus volunteers to help coordinate some Griffins Give donation days. So these are days geared specifically towards the students and the university population within Guelph, where we're going to encourage you guys to come together, show some Griffin spirit, and roll up your sleeves and donate blood as a community. So the next one is going to be taking place on February 26th, and our donation center is open from 11 to 4 that day. We are operating on an appointment-only basis right now, so you can go online if you're interested in donating on this day. Go online to blood.ca and you can book your appointment there. If you have a group of 3 or more people and you guys all want to donate together, say it's you and your housemates or people that you have bubbled with, and you would like transportation to the donor center, you can contact me and I can help you arrange this. It would be completely free of charge if it's just a means of helping you get to the donor center from the university. Otherwise, if the February 26th date doesn't work for you, we are open regularly at our Guelph Donor Center, and these are our hours, and we're located at 130 Silver Creek Parkway. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, or if you would like help in organizing a group, or if you have eligibility questions and you can't find the answer on our website, I would be happy to help you. The second opportunity for volunteering that I wanted to talk to you guys about is our InCenter Volunteers. So InCenter Volunteers help out in our refreshment area, and they play a really vital role in the day-to-day operations of our donation centers. So if you've donated blood before, you've likely seen and interacted with our volunteers after you've finished donating, and these are the wonderful folks who keep an eye on donors after they've finished their donation, make sure that they're feeling well, just monitor them, and then they also get to distribute the post-donation snacks. So this role looks a little bit different right now than what it normally does. But what our refreshment volunteers are doing is still the same key experience where they're making sure the donors feel good, they had a really good experience, and then they are taking their orders for their post-donation snacks, putting them out on a tray and allowing the donors to take them with them to consume after they've left the donation center. And our volunteers have also taken on a really key role of helping to sanitize and clean the donor center in between donors coming to the refreshment area. So if this is something that you're interested in doing, you can also go to blood.ca. There's a volunteer page there and you can apply to be a volunteer. So just to reiterate some of those key points that I had mentioned before, if you're interested in donating blood or you want to find out more about the volunteer opportunities within our organization, you want to look and see if you're eligible or find a donation center nearest you, I would highly recommend going to blood.ca. As well, we do have a really comprehensive app that has a lot of really neat features. After you've donated for the first time, it will track your donations for you, let you know about your eligibility and when you can come in next, as well as help you organize group donations. And lastly, if you have any questions, that's my email again there at the bottom. It's kirsten.dupuy@blood.ca, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions at all. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Kirsten. I don't see any questions specific to you at the moment, but I do have a quick question for you. In terms of the volunteering, like the refreshment sort of in charge of that part, what is the time commitment for that? Is that something that can be folks can just like be part of a list and then just sort of come in whenever they're available? Like, how does that scheduling work, and what is your current need? Like, can a bunch of people apply and be able to be part of this team, or are you doing pretty well with in terms of how many people you already have available?
Those are really good questions, Ray. So in terms of the time commitment, typically we encourage our InCenter volunteers to come anywhere from once a week to once a month. It really depends on your schedule and your availability and what you feel comfortable in terms of your time commitment. So that is entirely on an individual basis. In terms of the demand right now, I know that a large portion of our volunteer base for our InCenter volunteers are of the elderly community or folks who are of retirement age. And a lot of them don't feel comfortable leaving their homes right now and coming into the donor centers for completely valid reasons if they're immunocompromised. So there is a need for volunteers right now. And I know university students, especially if they are, getting a little bit cooped up in the house, it's a great opportunity to leave your house even just for an hour or so and come visit us. The shifts are typically anywhere from about an hour and a half to 2 hours in our donor center.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, and Kirsten, if you don't mind just responding that to the chat, as the Q&A as well, just so other folks can
absolutely
answer if they're just popping in now. All right, thank you so much. We don't have any more questions for Kirsten, so but if you do have more questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll be able to answer in a reply as well. All right, next I have Angela from Big Brothers Big Sisters Guelph. Angela, just give me one quick sec and we're live.
Good. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela, Big Sisters of Guelph. We are a mentoring agency that matches adults with kids who need a positive person in their life. So sometimes it's because they don't have, they're being raised by a single parent, or they just have a lot of siblings, and so they don't get that one-on-one attention that they need. Sometimes they just need someone to show them new opportunities and do homework with them, or go for a walk, or play a sport. So they get outside, they're getting that positive relationship building. So right now with the pandemic, so we've been working virtually with our kids, which has been really positive because they're not seeing their friends every day. They're not able to socialize the same way at school. And now with them being home again, they're really isolated from their communities. So with our virtual mentoring, they're able to meet for an hour a week on the computer, and you do games together or cook together. Some people have been really creative with how they've been maintaining that relationship, or you can just talk for a bit about what's going on with them, what's going on with the relationship up. So we have lots of different opportunities with our agency. The most common is our one-to-one matches. So that's where you're matched with a child who has similar interests to you, and the two of you can get together and just build that relationship and get to know one another. And then we have our group programs, which is online. We have about anywhere from 3 to 5 kids and a volunteer getting together online and playing games. We give you an activity bag, so you have everything you need to run the program, and we give you the manual so you know what games to play and how to talk to the kids. So that's good if you're kind of unsure how to start that relationship. The group program is more structured, whereas if you do a one-to-one match, it's a little bit more freeform. Again, we've been really supporting our volunteers by, dropping off supplies when we can, making sure that you have what you need. So some of our mentees have been wanting to do some baking while they're home. So we've been able to go to the store, get what we need for the recipes, and then drop it off to both of our volunteers and our mentees so that they have everything, and then they can go through the recipe together, talk and learn how to bake and get a skill and have some fun, and then at the end they get a yummy treat. So there's lots of different ways to get involved to your comfort level. And right now, like, there's a big need become more isolated, so parents are looking to get their kids involved in an activity that can just get them a little bit more socialized. So as far as the expectations for volunteers, it's generally an hour a week. Our group program runs for 7 weeks, and the one-to-one matches can run anywhere from a year and beyond, but we do understand that if you need to end that relationship a little bit before that year is up, we can talk to you about the expectations for that. But yeah, the hour really flies by because you're having so much fun. You can play like games in your living room together, talk, any activities that come to mind. And it can just be as easy as just being someone to listen to them, or it can be really interactive and you can put a lot of thought and effort into it. So it's kind of up to you how you structure that hour. As far as the volunteer process, so we require a background check, vulnerable sector background check, and there's an interview process. So just to get to know you, because we do match per, and then once you go through all of that process, then we start to match you with a child or match you with a group of children. So it can be really fulfilling to see them every week and see them grow. So we really appreciate our volunteers, and we want you to have fun too. So that's why we drop off with the bags to both of you, because it's more fun to be part of the activity. So it's really great because you just get to be like a kid for an hour. Do something silly, have some fun, ask random questions about superheroes, whatever comes to mind. It can be a lot of fun. Great.
Thank you, Angela. We don't have any questions at this point. We do. There's a question for you, Angela. How do we apply for the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and is it all virtual?
So right now everything is virtual. As everything opens back up, we have been supporting some relationships moving to in person, but that's really dependent on the relationship, the parents and the kids' comfort level, your comfort level, and then just health guidelines. Some people have been going for walks, nature walks, or doing socially distanced picnics and stuff in the summertime. Right now with the lockdown, we have returned to strictly virtual, but as restrictions ease again, we'll be looking at how we can bring people face to face. And then applications can be found on our website at bbbsg.ca, and you can go to the application, fill out all the information about the programs that you're interested in. There's more information on our website about what each program is, so you can find the one that fits you the best, apply there, and then in a case to start that the interview and the application process, get to know you and get to know what your expectations are too. That way we can match you with a kid who's going to be a good fit for you as well.
Awesome. A quick follow-up question. In terms of the in-person piece, if we do get a chance to go back to in-person again, where's the location usually? Is it a common space like that's provided by Big Brother Big Sisters, or is it at the student's house usually?
Sure. So one-to-one matches, when you meet in person, it's generally out in the community. So you can go to an activity place. So if there's, a library open or a coffee shop, parks, public spaces like that are great. And then group programs right now, they have been staying virtual because we used to run them in the schools, and obviously we're unable to have that space available right now. So groups are staying virtual until we have that consistency back. But yeah, when it's one-to-one, it is in the community. For our one-to-one matches, if right now with virtual, it's not expected that you have a vehicle, but if you want to move into a community match and meet that way, that you have a car, that way you're able to pick up your mentee and take them to your activity. Right now, that's not an expectation because because of bubbles, generally the parents will drop them off at the public space and then we social distance from there.
Awesome. Thank you. I just have so many questions for you. I'm sorry, but another question is, you mentioned about this interview process and sort of getting to know the volunteers. Yes. How long is that process to be expected?
Sure. So once we receive your application, we'll talk to you about a time that works for you. The interview is generally about an hour. It's just some questions about how you would handle different situations, questions about yourself, your experience with kids. So that takes about an hour. Then there's, our caseworker will take all that information, condense it into a spreadsheet so that we can see where you match up with others. So the matching process can take a little longer, but the interview process is about an hour, and then about, we usually get the entire from the time we get your application and then the interview and approve you as a volunteer takes about a week.
Oh, that's pretty quick. Thank you. Oh, there's actually quite a few questions for you in the Q&A box. One question
wow, okay. Let me go through these one at a time.
Can we start volunteering?
Yes, so groups will be starting up in February, and then one-to-one matches start whenever it's convenient for both people. So we've got lots of different opportunities depending on when you want to start and what your availability is long-term. The Play On group is happening. It's taking place online. So that's our girls group for girls who are 2 to 11 years old. So we have boys and girls groups and co-ed groups. So we match based on, sometimes on gender and sometimes not, because, some girls are just more comfortable in a group with all girls, and some boys, want to meet people of all ages and genders. So, we've got lots of groups, so whatever you're comfortable with. The general age group, so we start at 6 years old and then go up until they're about 16. In groups, we have groups for kids who are 9 to 11 and then 12 to 14. So if you're more comfortable with a certain age, you can let us know, and then we can find someone in that age group. So if you want someone older or someone younger, we can work with that. The volunteer application process. So the application is online. It takes like 20 minutes to fill out, and then we'll contact you depending on your availability. We can be done in about a week. And this volunteer. So you don't have to be living in Guelph right now because it's all virtual. But if you want to do in person, eventually being in Guelph would be necessary. And if you plan on graduating this year and not being around as of the end of the semester, then we can work with that. And maybe groups is a good opportunity for someone who doesn't plan on being around long term. And if you've already volunteered, you do not need to fill out another application. Just email your caseworker from previous, and they will let you know the opportunities available, and then you can go from there. And then groups consist of people who already know each other. Some of the kids do know each other. They used to be classmates because we ran them in school, so they would all know each other. But now it's based on availability rather than by school. So sometimes they pop in and they see someone they know and they're very excited. And sometimes it's kids who are all new to each other. One great thing about groups is that if you wanted to volunteer with a friend and you had the same availability, we could match you two to run a group together. We find that it makes running groups a little easier when you have that pre-existing relationship with your co-mentor. Just a little easier to bounce back and forth when you already have that comfort level. I think that's all the questions.
Awesome.
I hope that was just a slew of information.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see if we have any other questions from the audience. Okay, I think there was a couple questions that I think that's relevant to most of you folks. So I have a couple questions to ask. One thing is, in terms of location, I think there are people who are asking, are some of these opportunities, especially if they're in person, also available outside of Guelph? I think there was one that was specific for Canadian Blood Services. But if other folks have an answer to students who are location-wise not in Guelph, but want to engage with their organization in general, where can they find information for outside of Guelph opportunities? Just let me know if you can answer. I'll project your image. Okay, so we don't have anyone responding to that. That's good. My next question is, many students are asking about qualifications and training. Can you folks talk a little bit about, in general, like what type of volunteers are they expecting? Or is it that as long as the folks are interested in the opportunity, they will usually receive the training they need to perform their tasks? Or are you looking for a combination of interest and some sort of skills already so that they can get sort of like on the ground right away? I see Catherine from Frontier College already unmuted. So did you want to answer that first?
Yeah, for sure. And with regards to your last question, I can answer both those. So because we're all virtual now, if you do attend the University of Guelph, we suggest you do volunteer with Guelph's programs, even if you live somewhere else when you're not attending school, because it is when we are in person and even when we are virtual, we'll do like volunteer events. So we used to do like trivia night, like on campus, but now we do it virtually. So it really is great if you are a University of Guelph student, even if you decided to stay home for this semester, still volunteer in Guelph, because right now you can do it all virtually. And then if we ever do have our programs come back in person and you're all allowed to return to campus, it would make sense if you were already involved with Guelph's groups, because then that is where you would be physically located. Frontier College also has like a screening process for people apply to be volunteers. I didn't go into the whole process just because our volunteer positions are full for right now, but absolutely you receive all the training that you need. I think Angel may have alluded to this in the chat, but essentially if like you do not need to have like crazy numeracy or literacy skills. I guess you do need to be able to read, but I assume if you're all at the University of Guelph, you all know how to do that. We have different programs for different age groups. So some of our programs do work with high school students who need math support, but if high school math isn't something you feel confident, we also have programs that are reading buddies for grade 1 to 3 students. So that's more like helping kids just learn how to read and read picture books. So we have a whole wide range of opportunities. And when we do our next round of volunteer recruitment, I will send anyone who has emailed me after this saying they're interested a whole list of the programs we'll be offering, and then also step by step how you go through the screening process to become a volunteer with us.
Awesome, thank you so much. Anyone else who would like to answer that question regarding qualifications and skills or training?
I can talk on behalf of Let's Talk Science.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think someone asked in the Q&A already, but I know it probably sounds like we should only be asking science students. A lot of our volunteers are science students, but you don't have to be strictly in science. As I mentioned before, the level of this, like the knowledge level, would be up to grade 12 at the highest. And we always provide volunteers with a manual on how to run the activity. We always go through the activity with you if you're unsure of anything. And because you're signing up for the activity yourself, like, we basically just give you a list of all the requests that we get from educators. You can always pick and choose what you're comfortable teaching, right? Like if you're really into physics and that's your thing, then you can gravitate towards those activities more. The online training is provided by the national office because of national standards. And these really just help you understand, the purpose of Let's Talk Science. It helps you develop like the teaching skills, facilitation skills, and kind of like the theories of learning. And why we should teach certain ways in order to enhance understanding and engagement. So hopefully that answered the question. Oh, and if you don't have to be physically here in Guelph to be a volunteer because everything's online. The only time we would maybe try to see if we can meet with you is to give you a t-shirt, because all Let's Talk Science volunteers wear a t-shirt when they do activities, but we have mailed t-shirts to volunteers before because they're just not in Guelph or they're not physically able to come to campus out of either comfort level or they're just not able to come to Guelph. So definitely don't worry about that if you're not physically here in Guelph. And I think that's it.
Awesome, thank you so much. I think there's a question for Frontier College in the Q&A. What specific volunteer positions do we have? Like being a math tutor and reading, but yeah, I believe you already mentioned that before. So if Angela would like to respond to that in the response, that would be great. So I have another question that's more around expectation in terms of communication, because in my previous survey to volunteers, sometimes they find they sort of lose interest in the process of applying, and also not knowing whether they qualify. So sometimes just like waiting period also makes people hesitant to move forward. So if you folks could share a little bit around, I think Angela already talked a little bit about the turnaround in terms of the time for application process. If you can talk a little bit about how fast can students expect response when they indicate interest. So like what type of response do you usually give people if they just say, hey, I'm interested? You might not have an opportunity, but what can they expect in response? And if they somehow don't qualify for an opportunity or you're full, what can they do to stay connected with you? Because I find we lose this momentum and interest from students. Like, what are your sort of also tips to students when they're applying for a volunteer opportunity to kind of stay connected? Because that does happen sometimes. So maybe Catherine, go first. I see you already unmuted. Thank you.
Yeah, so with Frontier College, basically, if you send me an email, if you've sent me an email today, you'll be put on our mailing list. And I actually send out emails to anyone who has ever indicated interest ever in our organization at the beginning of each semester. And I initially send out the volunteer application. So as soon as I receive an application back from people, I then I send them the link to schedule an interview. Basically, within 24 hours, I will reply to whoever's completed one step in the screening process with the next step. So really, we start recruiting at the beginning of the semester. This semester, we started recruiting January 1st, and basically now it's January 18th, and we've totally filled all our positions. So, and we've gotten everyone onboarded. So it's about a 2-week process to be fully onboarded, and you will know if you are qualified and we've accepted you as a volunteer. So only about 2 weeks to go through all the steps.
Great, thank you so much. Anyone else would like to respond to that?
I can quickly just talk about Let's Talk Science. I think I mentioned some of it already, but so I believe we put the Google form in the chat when we were presenting, but if you just were to fill that out to indicate your interest in volunteering for Let's Talk Science, either Elisa or I will get back to you probably by the end of the day, or like the next day, within a couple of days. And what we'll basically do is we'll get you enrolled on the online training from the national office, and you can just do that at your own time. Once we kind of see that a lot of people have started to complete it, then we'll book a call, kind of like this, like a Microsoft Teams call, and then we'll do that together. We just kind of want to wait until there's more people, so it's not just like a one-on-one training. We want to wait until there's at least a couple of volunteers. And then after that, once you do the national training, the training with us, then you can start signing up for activities. So it's a pretty quick turnaround.
Right. So just a quick follow-up. So does that mean there's no selection process in volunteering with you folks? As long as folks apply, they can get something to volunteer for.
Yeah, that's correct. So we
That's
do, you'll, again, if you do decide to become a volunteer, we would kind of ask for like some sort of like a commitment. So we have a contract, I say like that, just to outline the responsibilities that we would, responsibilities of myself as a coordinator and you as a volunteer. So it would outline everything there, and it would just be, you know, you have to complete the 5 hours or 5 activities a year. We want you to log your hours a certain way, and we'll walk you through that, but it would all be outlined there. But there's not much of an interview process like the other organizations.
That's great. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to take up this question? Okay. All right. I don't see any new questions coming in. As I was just saying, there's one more. How often do activities happen with Let's Talk Science? And is it just one volunteer per activity?
Yeah, so how often the activities happen? So that's a good question. Right now, we're in a little bit of an interesting phase just because of the lockdown and because we usually go to classrooms, we'll visit classrooms virtually, but because online learning has been such a thing, like back before Christmas, we had a lot of activities because school was in person, but now there's a little bit of a lull. So there's usually an activity, we usually had like 3 a week, but it will probably be pushed back to maybe like 1 or 2. Maybe even 1 a week. In terms of how many volunteers per activity, it's usually 2 to 3. And if you're new to volunteering, we usually, like the coordinators, either myself, Elisa, or the other coordinator will actually join you on the call. And that's just to make you more comfortable and kind of help take off the load of like being new to it, learning a new platform, potentially answering the chat. So there's a lot of different things that we could do to help you and support you, but you would never be in a call alone. It's actually like policy that you have to have at least another person there with you.
Great. Thank you so much. We don't have any more questions and we're near the end of our session today. Thank you so much for all of you who tuned in with your questions, and thank you so much for all the presenters, community partners to come in today and share their amazing opportunities within their organizations. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop your questions to svc@uoguelph.ca. Kashika, if you don't mind just sharing the blurb about SVC in the announcement. SVC is Student Volunteer Connections, which is your on-campus volunteer hub, which is the team that I manage. So if you had any other questions about volunteering and you're not too sure where to start, reach out to us and we have all the information that the folks just shared today, as well as other opportunities that we're promoting currently. So reach out to us and one of our team member will support you in finding that opportunity that works for you in terms of your schedules and your interest. This is it for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And we're going off now. Bye.